Yo, we're going. Y'all know what's up, and we back in here with another. I really don't know what I'm gonna name this one yet. I'm gonna come up with something as I go. Feel me? Basically another video about UFOs and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? It's another one about UFOs. Feel me? It's another one about aliens. I just be finding shit on TikTok, and I be wanting to show y'all. We finna get into it.
Lockheed has, I think, some assets in Nevada, but they have a lot of corporate facilities in California. And supposedly there is this shack on the side of a highway in California that looks like some nondescript warehouse. And you go into this warehouse, and the whole floor of the warehouse is an elevator. And it drops Lord knows how many hundreds of feet, and you're inside of a facility carved out of rock, deep underground.
Yeah.
And what this guy said is that they are not only reverse engineering craft from retrieved debris in this facility, but they're actually training pilots to fly them. And he told me that the main problem that they have in that training program is that the pilots experience extreme disorientation because of the warping of space-time by these craft. In other words, they discovered early on that these are not simply devices with propulsion systems capable of navigating space very quickly, like they can take you from New York to Australia, right? They're flying time machines.
I ain't gonna lie, man. Y'all that's in the Young Cabo University, for people that listen to people that talk about stuff like this, y'all already know what's going on. Feel me? Y'all already know what's going on. We've been talking about they reverse engineering shit, all types of shit. The Griota treaty or the greedy treaty, however you say it, all that. Feel me?
There really is some kind of phenomenon that is consistent, is measurable, is witnessable, and is happening in our planet's atmosphere. Sometimes that phenomenon happens underground. Sometimes that phenomenon happens on the surface. Sometimes that phenomenon happens in the sky. After being through 2 seasons of investigating high strangeness with the Skinwalker team and the Beyond Skinwalker effort, I am more convinced than ever that there is something happening. I am not any more convinced that it is alien in nature, but I am more and more confident that it does defy science as we understand science today. Energy signatures, transient physical evidence, like somehow you can see gaps in GPS data, gaps in geospatial data, gaps in energy returns. Like, it's the strangest thing, man, and nobody can explain it. Experts in their field can't explain it. Technical experts with the equipment can't explain it. Astrophysicists, like scientists, can't explain it, but it happens, and it's consistent, not everywhere, but in certain places.
Put it in the simplest way. It's a cosmic family reunion. Real shit. It's a cosmic family reunion. Bro, it's the rising of the Kundalini. It's the rising of the Kundalini energy, man. Like, it's the return of the gods. Literally, nigga.
The 3 pyramids of Giza are laid out on the ground in the pattern of the 3 stars of Orion's belt. And skeptics will say, well, you can find any buildings and line them up with any stars you want. But Orion actually isn't any old constellation. Orion was the god Osiris in the sky. He was, the ancient Egyptians called the Orion constellation Sahu, and they recognize it as the celestial image of the god Osiris. So what's being copied on the ground is the belt of a deity, of a celestial deity. It's not just a random constellation. First of all, you find that the exact orientation of the pyramids as it is today, and pretty much as it was when they're supposed to have been built 4,500 years ago, it's not precisely related to how Orion's belt looked at that time. There's a bit of a twist. They're not quite right. But as you precess the stars backwards, as you go back and back and back, and you come to around 10,500 BC, 12,500 years ago, in the Younger Dryas, you find that suddenly they lock perfectly. They match perfectly with the 3 pyramids on the ground. And that's the same moment that the Great Sphinx, an equinoctial monument, aligned perfectly to the rising sun on the spring equinox. Anybody can test this for themselves. Just go to Giza on the 21st of March, be there before dawn, stand behind the Sphinx, and you will see the sun rising directly in line with the gaze of the Sphinx.
Now that's interesting, but I ain't gonna lie, bro. Time ain't real. Time ain't real, bro. Time is not real. It ain't for real, bro. Like, bro, a lot of this shit that you know about is not that old. It really ain't that old for real, for real. It's a real spell. Real talk. So when people say stuff like 4,000, 5,000, all this shit, bro, or 1,000,000 years ago and all this shit, bro, Atlantis and all that other shit, bro, that shit was not that old. The Egyptians was not that long ago. Real shit.
That we're containers for souls is just so goddamn creepy. This is a farm of souls.
I'm not familiar with that hypothesis, but it sounds interesting.
That was one of the more weird parts of Bob Lazar's story, was that they've always been here and that they view us as containers.
Containers, interesting.
Yeah. And he said there's a very thick document that relates to the implications that it has on religion and like the way they talk about us.
Well, religion calls us vessels, right?
Yeah.
That's religious scripture and a lot of different religions refer to humans as vessels. I'm certainly not a religious expert, so I don't want to pontificate here and say something that's inaccurate, but that doesn't surprise me.
Well, I think the term was, I think they were saying vessels for souls.
That we're containers. That's how supposedly the aliens look at us. That we are nothing but containers.
I ain't gonna lie, we already know that. Well, tell me we don't already know that. Like, bro, religion and all this shit ties together. Real talk. They use the moonlight to blind you to, you get what I'm saying? They use the moonlight to blind you into going into the light, bro. That's the same light in religion that you go up into and it send you back downhill, shit like that, bro. People in the Young Cavo University, we already know what's going on.
Locals say that this mountain right here will quite literally swallow you up. Is that because there's a secret alien base inside of it? Well, that's what a CIA operative thought back in the 70s. Let's talk about it. This is Mount 9, Ghana and Zimbabwe, and I'm so sorry if I said that incorrectly, but it's made more than a few people vanish in its time. Locals believe that there is a vindictive spirit that lives on this mountain, and if you stray off the trail or disrespect nature in any way, shape, form, or fashion, you will quite literally vanish off of the face of the earth. Now, this mountain is 8,504 foot tall, which makes it the tallest mountain in Zimbabwe, and you cannot climb it without a tour guide, and there are a shit ton of rules like no laughing, no commenting on the mountain, and you damn sure don't take anything. Basically, again, you respect the mountain and it will let you live. And of course, like anything, there is a reason for these rules. Back in 1981, 2 little girls were climbing the mountain when they completely vanished, and these little girls weren't just any little girls. They were daughters of government officials, so you know there was a search popping off in the 80s for them, and they didn't find a single trace. Or in 2014, when a British tourist went missing on the mountain and they brought helicopters in, there were local rituals done, and they still did not find a trace of this man. So what is causing these people to vanish while they are on this mountain? Could it be a secret UFO base, or could it just be nature and you take a risk anytime you climb a mountain, whether it's Lookout Mountain or a mountain in Zimbabwe? What even gives me the idea that there is a UFO base inside of this mountain? Well, back in the 1970s, a very skilled remote viewer and a CIA operative named Pat Price remote viewed 4 different locations that had alien bases inside of them. This is one of those locations. And here's proof that Pat Price was working with the CIA on a operational status as of April of 1975. Here's the gag. 3 months later, Pat Price was unalived, very mysteriously.
She on it. She on it. Hey, y'all fuck with her. Her name, her like or however you say that, you feel me? She on it. She on it, bro. Go fuck with her. She on it. We already know this, bro. They got bases in the mountains, on the ground, all that shit. The graves in the water, all that shit. We already know this, bro. And it's crazy because they got the government officials. They got they little girls and shit. I ain't really got too much to say on that, bro, but I feel like they did something they was not supposed to do, and they had the answer for it. The government official probably did something they was not supposed to do. That's all I'm gonna say. We gonna keep going.
Do you remember the blob anomaly? It showed up earlier this year in April on an app that measures how big waves are in the ocean. It started off pretty small, but by the time it made it to the southern tip of Africa, it was this size. Was it headed to a UFO base that's located in Africa? Well, let's talk about it. So in 1987, the CIA conducted a remote viewing session of extraterrestrial bases throughout the entire solar system. So we know where the Titan base is. We know where Mount Hayes is. It's this last one that's a little fuzzy, the South America/Africa base. And you can see that he describes meeting 2 different entities inside of this base. The first one didn't recognize him, but the second one did pick up on his presence. Now jump forward in the document to where he is describing what he sees while he's at this physical base. That is Africa. I know it's labeled South America, but look at the drawing. That's fucking Africa. So I started digging into UFO sightings in Africa because we have the blob headed towards Africa. We have this drawing of Africa, I'm sure of it. And we have the base up top labeled Africa. And wouldn't you know it, back in 1952, the CIA had a document about 2 UFOs being spotted in the Congo. Look, they were near uranium mines. This is the area of the Congo that those UFOs were spotted in. And it's right next door to Zimbabwe, which had a mass sighting of UFOs in 1994. Let me know if you want to hear about that. So was that blob anomaly headed towards a UFO base in Africa? I mean, we have the remote viewer putting a UFO base in Africa. We have the mass sighting in Zimbabwe. And then we have the 2 saucers that were spotted over the uranium mines right there. And yes, I know this is not exactly where the remote viewer drew the X on the map. And again, I know that he wrote South America and not Africa. But I feel in my gut, there's a UFO base in Africa.
Shit, bruh. Look, bruh. Who be flying those ships? Who be flying those ships? Some of them. You feel me? Now think about this. They said it was spotted over the uranium mine. Who be over there in Africa in those slave mines and shit? Not saying that's what's going on in that one right there. But in Africa, we know that shit go on. Who you think was flying the ship that flew over the uranium mine? But yeah, man, it's a base in Africa too. I believe some of y'all already heard that from me. But yeah, there's a base in Africa. I might actually do a whole video or something like that about it. You know what I'm saying? But it's a base in Africa, bro. It's around the portal. Because there's a portal in the Sahara Desert. They got a base around that portal to harness the energy from that portal. Real shit. That base is connected to the other bases through the underground trains and shit. You feel me? But they pretty much wrap this one up. Leave y'all thoughts in the comments. All that shit. Peace to the guys and goddesses of Planet Kai. Peace to everybody that's high vibrational.